Universalist congregation. My name is Hammoor, and I get to be the ministerial intern of this loving, bright, cheerful, playful, musical, and justice-loving congregation.
Claire, your mic's not on.
Do I have to do that whole thing again?
Andy, yours is not on.
Okay, how about now? Success? Zoom, we love you. Thank you all for being here this morning for our Collage of Voices service, where we ask folks to respond to the question, what are you absolute about? And so we will get to hear sacred words from a lot of members of our community, and there'll be an invitation for you to contribute your own as well, particularly in coffee hour. We have a couple of fun special guests though. First, Marion is going to kick us off speaking about the pledge drive.
When I first joined Namakwa, it was, I think, 2010, We were meeting in Ferguson High School after a 10-year nomadic journey from site to site, each with its advantages and mostly disadvantages. One huge disadvantage was that we only had the space Sunday mornings. That meant that meetings outside of Sunday mornings and social gatherings had to take place in various people's homes. It also meant that we were limited to the furnishings that the site provided unless we brought our own in Sunday morning and carted them out at the end of the service. That meant coffee urns, chalices, whatever else we needed had to be stored in people's homes and brought in and out. Private meetings with the minister were difficult, if non-existent. He was very part-time and he drove up from Denver, and he really wasn't a part of the Loveland community. Our music was limited mostly to hymns played by our beloved volunteer, Donna Ammons, who also led a choir of passionate voices, not quite ready for prime time. Occasionally we had guest ministers, guest musicians and guest ministers. In 12 years, we've come a long way. We have our own building, which, by the way, has recently been paid off. Yay. We have a sanctuary for services. We have a social hall for meetings and social gatherings. We have a kitchen. We have classrooms for children's education and adult education. And we can decorate and furnish as we want. And when we aren't using furnishings or decorations, we have a basement to store them in. We have a gutsy, creative minister, Laurel, who has been full-time until this year when she went to 3/4 time with the capable and talented assistance of our intern, Claire. Our RE director, Janin, plans meaningful, fun programs for our children. We have a housekeeper to keep our facility clean. And by the way, we're looking for a new housekeeper. So if you or someone you know is interested, here's an opportunity. We have a capable administrator, Janet, who helps keep the business of this congregation running more smoothly. And we are looking to hire a bookkeeper. We very recently hired our first ever music director, Ryan, and he is a marvel. He helps plan Sunday musical offerings, plays the piano magnificently, and leads the choir, which sounds better than ever. We're looking to hire an associate pianist who will accompany the choir and play on Sunday mornings when Ryan can't be here. We've been able to do all of this because in the past, members have shown commitment and dedication by pledging to keep this congregation viable, healthy, and strong. I've been involved in many religious communities over the years, and I have never known one that is more involved, committed, and caring than our Namakwa community. As Norma stated last week, we are committed to sharing our love, joys, concerns, allowing us to feel connected, cared for, important, and useful. We belong. We feel safe here in Namakwa to be ourselves. For me, what this means is that through the connections I feel here in this community, I become a better person. I'm able to send out ripples into the relationships beyond these walls. We are working to create beloved community, not just here in Namakwa, but in the wider Loveland community and even further out into the wider world. We are in a good place financially right now because of the foresight, care, giving, and planning in the past. In keeping of this year's pledge drive, I can say it's all ducky. But there's no guarantee that this will continue into the future. This is something we need to address every year at this time through the pledge drive. We need to ensure our duck pond not only remains healthy, but grows deeper, stronger, and wider. What are your ideas about our future? How does Namakwa serve your needs? You had a chance to voice your ideas with a survey. And if you haven't done so, I urge you to get a survey sheet, fill it out, and put it in the purple box. Do you want more administrative hours to ensure the business of church is done effectively? How about ensuring we have adequate funds to attract not only a great interim minister for the next 2 years when Laurel is gone, but after that, an outstanding settled minister who meshes with our needs and desires. Perhaps you want additional music programs. Perhaps you want a bigger impact on our community through more social justice. Do you have other ideas as to how we can radiate love, peace, and justice beyond these walls into the world which so badly needs these? Our plans and ideas can be fulfilled only if we have the money to make it happen. Studies have found that neurons in the section of the brain that registered satisfaction, those neurons start firing when a person donates money. So I'm asking you to show your love and gain this wonderful satisfaction from making a meaningful pledge to this congregation that we call our home. If you still need a pledge form, you can contact Norma or Rebecca Williamson. Raise your hand. Thank you. Your commitment, pledge, and ideas today will enable us to plan our journey ahead. If you haven't yet, take the plucky ducky plunge into the inviting waters of Namakwa Pond, and let's finish this pledge drive with 100% participation.
You, Marion, that was awesome.
Together. We're all in
This
this
together.
together. You want to try it again?
Sure. We're all in this together.
There we go.
Or are we?
Unplunged and unpledged plucky ducks. Over 50 folks who are members or friends of Namakwa have not yet pledged. Do you buy your Christmas gifts on December 24th?
Do you say you'll start eating a more healthy diet tomorrow?
Norma, do you file your income tax as late as April 15th?
You know, I've been trying to do that for the last month, but this darn pledge drive takes every minute. Do you wait until your tax tank is empty before you get gas?
Did you wait until the night before to write that term paper? How'd all that work out for you?
Yeah.
Today, and the pledge drive is over in about
10 days.
10 days.
Don't wait till the last minute.
Fill out your pledge drive form today.
Thank you, Rebecca and Norma, for taking this whole project on. Now for a little bit more seriousness. One of the ways we create beloved community, we use the pledge drive to fund our operations. We also pass the collection basket every Sunday, and half of that collection goes to a community nonprofit that you vote on in late spring. And we have today Morgan Villeneuve to talk to us about the food bank of Larimer County. That's who we gave our October through December quarterly amount to. So Morgan, would you like to tell us a little bit about, we know the food bank, but only by name for many of us.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Oh, okay. Hi, everyone. It's hard to follow you guys up. So it's a lot. But no, thank you all so much for letting me be here today and speak to you guys. And thank you for your generous donation. With it, we can make over 3,000 meals for members in our community, which is so important. We feed the entire Larimer County community. So not only do we have our fresh food shares in Fort Collins and Loveland, but we also have partner agencies and organizations all throughout the county. So we can feed all the way up to Red Feather and Berthoud and the entire county. And your donations help us do that. So please rest easy knowing that we will be good stewards of your money and make sure it goes to the people in our community who need it most. But not only do we need funds, we also need volunteers. It's a really important thing in our community and at both of our food share locations is we're pretty much essentially volunteer run. We have about 10 main staff members at each of our food share locations and about 40 administrative and warehouse staff at our warehouse location. If we didn't have volunteers, we would have to hire enough people to cover 44,000 hours of staff time a year. That's so much staff time. And we would be really, really aching for donations then. So if anybody has a free day, whether it's a Saturday, a Tuesday, an hour, 2 hours, fill out a form on our website and feel free to come down. But if you can't, the donations help so much as well. We can stretch that money a lot further than kind of your average person can, because we are part of a Feeding America network, which is really important. And that basically means we can get food shipped to us all the way from California without having to pay shipping costs, which is a huge, or sometimes it's only paying shipping costs and not having to pay for the food itself. So generally it's one or the other. So that's why we can get food a lot easier. That being said, if anybody wants to do a local food drive, we have, especially kids really like to do that. We can take those shelf stable goods and also use those as well. So there's a ton of ways that you can get involved with the food bank. You all here are already involved because you've donated, which is super important. But if you want to get more involved, that volunteer piece is very important to us and we really, really need that. But I don't want to diminish your contribution by saying, hey, we also need volunteers, because what you guys have done is so important. And like I said, we're able to feed create over 3,000 meals with that donation. So that's a lot of meals and we're really excited for it. We're able to feed kids, older adults, families, really anybody who comes through our doors and needs food, they get food from us. We are not in the business of telling people no or telling people what they should and shouldn't eat. We want to make sure that anyone who comes to our doors feels just as welcome as you guys have made me feel today already. This is such a warm place, so thank you for that. But also, we are also one of the few food banks in the country that has a model like ours, where our clients can actually come into our food banks and shop for the food they need. A lot of food banks will give just boxes and say, here you go about your way. Well, we don't do that. Clients come into our food bank and they get to pick what's best for them. You all know what's best for you and your family, so do our clients. So we allow them to make that choice, and we think it adds dignity, respect, and it just makes people happier and healthier in the long run. So with your donations, we're able to keep doing that. So thank you guys so much for that. And if you have any questions, I'll leave some cards. You guys can reach out to me if you want to volunteer or want to donate more or just want to know more about the food bank. I'm always happy to talk about it. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you, Morgan.
In her poem, Absolute, Jacqueline Woodson writes, all of us now, suddenly seeing the trick mirror that had us believe we weren't beautiful, suddenly shifts. And there we are, and there we are, and there we are again. And oh, how could we have not seen ourselves before? So much more. We are so much more. Today, as we're listening to absolutes from folks around us, from our own voices, I invite us to begin by getting to know the people around us very gently. So can you start with just a hand wiggling to some fingers moving, very small, just a tiny bit. And if you're a visitor or you're new, could you let your fingers wiggle up in the air so we can give you a little hello? Can we give them a hello, people around? So glad you're here. And now can you take your hands wiggling to the person next to you and just let them greet each other. Maybe their fingers are greeting each other. Someone maybe behind you. Maybe there's someone behind you to greet and just give them a little wiggle, good morning. Someone in front of you. And then to yourself on your heart, wiggling, feeling how good it is to be here and alive together.
Shall we light the chalice?
Let's do it.
Syllabus for the Dark Ahead by Jahan Dubrow. Throughout this course, we'll study the American landscape of our yard. Coiled line of the garden hose, muddy furrows in the grass, awaiting our analysis.
What's called a close reading of the ground. And somewhere, something will yip in pain, perhaps a paw caught in a wire, or else the furred and oily yowling of desire.
And flickering beyond the fence, we'll see the slatted lives of strangers. The light above a neighbor's porch will be the test of how we tolerate the half illumination.
Of uncertainty, a glow that's argument to shadow. Or if not that, we'll write an essay on the stutter of the bulb, the little glimmering that goes before the absolute of night. Come, let us worship together.
Good morning. Good morning. Is that on? Test, test. Oh, hi. Good morning. So the hymns we chose this morning might be unfamiliar, but the good news is that we are all friends. It's a safe space and we all love each other. So as I tell the choir, sing out. And if you make a mistake, make a big one. You could be absolute in your mistake, if you will. So this one I know I can is 10:15. All of them are in the teal hymnal. And I was playing all of them as you came in this morning. So by musical osmosis, you should already have it in your head, right? So we'll stand in body and spirit. We'll sing out. It helps to sway a little bit on this one because it's kind of bluesy. So 10:15, I know I can.
service
its call. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Today's Time for All Ages is a really beautiful book called Carmela, Full of Wishes. And here we see a little girl on a scooter going past fields with people working in the fields. Carmela scooted along the uneven dirt path, watching men stoop to work with their hands. Her birthday bracelets jingling and jangling, the thick greenhouse air smelled of marigolds and overturned earth and fresh manure. Carmela knew exactly what manure was, but she didn't want to think about it. Not today. And here we see her in a bright home, sitting with a cake, and you see her family near her. Today, she awoke to candles in her pancakes. Her mom sang, "Happy birthday to you," and told her, "Go on, mija, make a wish." But Carmela's wish had already come true. She was finally old enough to go along with her big brother. Carmela followed as he cut back onto the street at Freedom Boulevard, past the crowded bus stop and fenced off repair. Look at all those trucks! Past the folks' home where two old hunched women waved smiles, past the huge home improvement store where her dad used to stand out on weekend mornings waiting for work. And we see a busy street scene and the kids rushing down it. Yes, I see those trucks. Carmela tried to make small talk with her brother as the metal cart rattled, but her brother didn't make small talk back. He didn't want her tagging along. Too bad, she told him with a glare. And here we see the brother and sister glaring at each other, not looking so happy. Just outside the laundromat, she picked a lone dandelion growing among the concrete weeds. She pulled a breath and leaned toward the fuzzy white ball, but just before she could blow, her brother butted in. "Did you even make a wish? You're supposed to make a wish. Everyone knows that." "Of course I made a wish," she told him, but it was a lie. Carmela didn't know. And there they are inside the laundromat. Carmela helped her brother sort colors one-handed, helped him load the washers one item at a time. While their clothes spun, her imagination turned, each new thought ushered in by a jingle of bracelets. Her brother found the sound annoying and shot her a dirty look. "Well, too bad," she told him with her own glare. She jingled her bracelets as she rode to Miss Maria's vegetable stand, imagining a machine built into her bedroom wall, one that could spit out anything she could think of, but mostly candies. And here we see, in the style of the Day of the Dead flags, a candy machine. She jingled her bracelets in line at the locksmith shop, imagining her mom sleeping in one of those fancy hotel beds she spent all day making for fancy guests. She jingled her bracelets at the bodega down the block from their old apartment building, imagining her dad getting his papers fixed so he could finally come home. She jingled her bracelets outside the pharmacy, eyeing the shiny new bikes in the window. Her brother stopped in his tracks. "Why do you have to be so annoying?" he said. She thrummed her bracelets at him and said, "It's a free country." The only time she didn't reach for her bracelets was when her brother ducked into his friend's house. Carmela slumped on the curb, silently imagining all the things she could turn him into. The slimy pink tail of a rat, a cockroach scurrying away from the light, a wheelbarrow full of manure left in the sun. She stared down at the dandelion in her hand, and it seemed so much more important now that she knew it was a place to put her wishes. But what if she made the wrong choice? And here we see her looking at the dandelion. Carmela tried to hop a curb on the long trip home, but her tire caught and her handlebars twisted, and she went crashing onto the concrete. She looked up at her big brother, warm tears rolling down her cheeks. He lifted up her scooter. "You okay?" She shook her head and pointed and said, "My wish." And we see the dandelions scattered on the ground. He took her by the arm and led her back up the block, past the laundromat, the flea market, past the greenhouses and the smell of manure, past the overgrown park and across the train tracks. He didn't stop until they made it to an abandoned farmhouse near a cliff overlooking the sea. "Close your eyes," he said. Carmela closed them. "Now make your wish," he said. And Carmela listened to the ocean's hum in the distance. She listened to the squawking bird. She listened to the wind whistling past her ears. And then she opened her eyes. And she saw hundreds of tiny white spores lifting into the air, floating out from the far-off surf. The whole sky was full of wishes. Let's go, her brother said. Do you not want to hear my wish? She asked. He shook his head. If you tell me, it won't come true. She looked back one last time and then took off her bracelets and followed her brother home. So for all the wishes we're speaking into the world today, let's say, may it be so.
May it be so.
We're about to start sharing some of the absolutes that folks have written. And after each one, I invite you to do a not very Unitarian thing and shout, Amen. And the reason I ask you to do this is amen means something along the lines of, I believe, or I believe this. And I invite you to take the time, to take a chance to believe everything that everyone wrote today, to believe their absolutes. Try it on. You can slough it off after. But I invite you to give a rousing amen after we hear each of these absolutes. Also, sorry, they're anonymous, so these are not ours. These are.
At 80 years and 7 months old, I am absolutely sure of the importance of two things, gratitude and humor. As I become increasingly mobility impaired, I get to practice these attributes almost daily. I often need assistance to get from one place to another. Sometimes people offer, sometimes I ask. Whenever a particular mission has been accomplished, I gratefully and sincerely thank my assistant and tell him or her that they can take the rest of the day off, or that they have earned a merit badge or deserve a promotion. They usually smile, me too. Amen.
I am absolute about gay rights. No exceptions, no excuses, no circumstances where it doesn't apply. Full stop.
Amen. I don't have many absolutes, maybe two. One is I can only be a Democrat. There are programs for those less fortunate and responses to those who temporarily cannot keep up with the demands of life. There are programs to educate all with support for individual needs, community needs versus advancement of individuals.
Amen. For me, it's about taking responsibility for oneself. I found even with my most serious mistakes and errors in judgment, it can be a learning experience if I examine what happened and how I contributed. If I simply blame it on others or some external force, there is no way for me to grow and I'm in danger of repeating. Often when I do step up, those around me are forgiving, accepting that I have human frailties.
Amen. I am absolute about life being an ocean of absolute mystery. How is it that we have consciousness? How do we gain the mystic harmony linking sense to sound and sight? We sing in for the beauty of the earth. How is it I experience life at all? I am absolute about your experiencing life too, in addition to me, that we are experiencing life together. My dogs as well, even my plants in a way. Perhaps all is experiencing. I am absolute about being open to that mystery. I believe in the mystery of free will. While the world may seem deterministic, I absolutely can always choose how to live it. I can choose my actions. I can even choose which feelings to feed. I can always choose to lean toward love. And where does my sense of love come from? My sense for my highest values. I am absolute about there being no concrete rules that can ever encapsulate love. Love is an unbounded mystery. It is beyond definition, except in terms of the other ultimate undefinable mysteries. Life is an ocean of absolute mystery. How do I ride its waves and experience its depths? How do we together? Amen.
Amen. Humanity has a depth to respect the earth. Our Mother Earth keeps giving, and we keep taking and taking. The resources of this planet do not exist for the exclusive benefit of humans, but for balance and the continuance of all species, animal, plant, rock, and rivers. Ours ought to be a reciprocal relationship of taking only what we need, being gracious, and nurturing our Earth home. I wonder, is it too late to change?
Amen. While fixing dinner one night, I was thinking about what is absolute for me. As I chopped this and stirred that, the first absolute that came to mind was, life's too short to ever have bad wine. I sipped my very tasty wine and sat with my one absolute for a bit before others emerged. While life's too short to ever drink bad wine remains one of my absolutes, there are indeed others. One is, there are a lot of kind people out there just waiting to be kind to not only me, but others. I've had this demonstrated to me over and over and over in big cities, small towns, and foreign countries. Another of my absolutes is, if you want to know the truth about a situation, ask a person under the age of 17. And often the younger the person, the more truth you get. Ever ask a 6-year-old a question that began, why? Then you know what I mean. And final for now, absolute is grace. I often forget this one, but when I do remember, I know that I am surrounded by grace every minute of the day, no matter what.
Amen. We turn now to hear our joys and sorrows from the community. And I invite you to consider sharing with us as we listen to this poem called Alone by Maya Angelou. Lying, thinking last night how to find a soul home where water is not thirsty and bread loaf is not stone. I came up with one thing. I don't believe I'm wrong, that nobody but nobody can make it out here alone. Nobody but nobody can make it out here alone. We are here to hold you in your joy and in your sorrow. And a way of seeing that is by seeing Kathy transfer a stone from one bowl to the next. And I invite folks here to speak first, and then I will read from the chat for all of our friends on Zoom who are joining us as well this morning. So if you have a joy or a sorrow to share, if you could come up and I will hand you the microphone.
Is this on? Hi, I'm Tracy, and I just wanted to share with everyone. It started out as a sorrow, but it turned into a joy. I think it was Tuesday this past week. I ended up waking up from a nap, not being able to breathe, and I had to go be taken by ambulance, and ended up in ICU. And then being transferred to Anschutz and had emergency surgery on my trachea. I couldn't make it to Boston. I think I shared with you, I had to go to Boston for surgery, but I couldn't make it to Boston. So I had emergency surgery this past week. My trachea, your trachea is supposed to be 18, whatever. 18 is the number that they aim for. Mine was 7. They were able to dilate it to 12. So I'm doing much better, and that's my joy. And so I'm very grateful to be here with you all today. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Katie, and you guys know Maya, who also goes by Eli. So we just wanted to let everybody know that Maya is involved with Harrington's, and she's going to be in the production of Matilda on April 1st and 2nd, coming up in a few weeks. We'd love to see faces there. You can go online to get tickets for that. But anyway, so that's exciting. And then part of that is she is selling these cards for Harrington's as a fundraiser if anyone's interested in talking to us after the service. So yeah, that was it. Thank you.
I just want to comment on Ryan playing piano fantastically and leading the choir, which I really appreciate. But I also want to remind you, Miriam Cox led the music for about 10 years, 8 years, something. It's a fantastic job. So let's not forget her, please.
I'm Janet, and my joy is, of course, concerts. So Friday night, oh, actually, this started 2 years ago. For her birthday, my daughter said she wanted to see Colin Hay. And I was like, Colin Hay, what the? And she said, remember Men at Work? I come from a land down under. That's Colin Hay. So I was like, cool. So I bought the tickets to take her to Fort Collins, Lincoln Center, see Colin Hay. Postponed. So finally, Friday night, we went, and I was so happy because as soon as I know I'm going to go to a concert, I start listening to the person's music over and over. So I knew all his songs. So we go to the concert, and he reminds me so much of my dad. His voice was clear and beautiful, just as ever. And his range was just amazing. But he's a storyteller, and so all of his songs are stories. And which I was sad that he didn't have a VIP thing, because I wanted to ask him about all these dead women in his songs. But anyway, it was very cool because he tells stories between and jokes, and his musicianship is just right there. It's just fantastic. And your concerts are my life. So I am very, 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 very grateful for concerts.
Does anyone else want to speak? Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to give you a little joy sandwich, I guess. It's the best way to do it, right? So I'm feeling a lot of joy and excitement that this coming week I'm going to New York City with my company, and we're presenting what we're doing, which I'm really passionate about and feel really called to. So that's really exciting, and accepting all good vibes that it goes well. I'm feeling a lot of sorrow, facing kind of, I think a lot of us have things that we come back to over and over again. Oh my gosh, you're back. Okay. That we come over and over again, and we hope that every time that we face the same challenge, that we come to it being more prepared and feeling wiser and more ready. And I'm feeling a lot of sorrow and unworthiness, not feeling more prepared. So that's kind of just what I'm going through today. But I wanted to also share some joy that this morning I got to take a yoga class virtually with Hannah Rodriguez, who used to be a part of, and is still a part, though she lives in Denver now, of Namakwa. And she offered a mantra for us and for anyone else who kind of is struggling. It's a root chakra mantra, and it's LAM, LAM. And that's been just really supportive. And I really appreciate community and community that encourages us and helps us grow. So thanks for being a part of that.
Oh, we're going to check the Zoom chat right now and see if we've got any in there.
On the Zoom chat, Tam Paquette has a joy. Thanks to 3 years on the Gerson therapy, my body is beating an incurable cancer. And the sorrow is the eldest daughter of a dear friend since middle school is losing her cancer battle. For all the joys that we've shared, for all those sorrows deep in our hearts, and for the life we have yet to live, let's respond by saying, we hear you, and we hold you, and we care for you. Please join us in singing Comfort Me. More absolutes. The longer I live, the more I see there are no absolutes that are not immutable, except the few internalized ones that define your reactions, not necessarily your actions and choices. Absolutes teach humility, if nothing else. Some things you think define your presence and ideas of who you are change over time. Your role in a family unit, your health, a career, good times, hard times, your very identity. This brings me back to something I read recently. Quote, my grandmother was born in Czechoslovakia, got married in Hungary, and died in Soviet Ukraine, yet she never left her village. Adaptation to what you think is absolutely critical to survival. Life is like a book. One has to know when to turn the page. Hubert de Givenchy. My defining reaction throughout my life has been to thine own self be true. My mother always put it another way. There is no one except you to take responsibility for your actions. You have to live with the consequences of your choices. No absolution, no forgiveness, no higher power to appeal to, no heaven, no hell ever. And in my long life, I've tried to live by this one defining mantra. Sometimes I've succeeded, sometimes I failed, but I think overall, it has made me a happier, forgiving, and truthful person. Amen.
In my life, I think that my parents' love for me was absolute and unconditional, and it has been the difference for me for my entire life, including well past their deaths. Their love is reciprocated.
Ed, your mic's off.
I always turn it off when the singing happens. You don't need to hear that. Another absolute is that after way too many years as a pro football fan, I absolutely hate it and won't ever change my mind. You don't have to do so.
Let's say
Amen.
These are things I'm absolute about. I'm a pantheist first and a secular humanist second. One of the worst things about power is when those who have it steal from their people. Only fools don't change their minds. If you don't recognize the flaws in your thinking, others will do it for you. The stupid are cocksure while the intelligent are full of doubt. You are the easiest person to fool. You will never learn if you don't read. Read everything you can get your hands on. Curiosity is a gift to be treasured. Not all have it. And finally, if at first you don't succeed, skydiving is not for you. Amen.
I am absolute that the intensity and beauty of nature and the natural world can heal individuals in all states of mind. I believe that if we could live closer to nature, if we could incorporate nature in all lives throughout their lives, that we could have a healthier, happier world. Hippocrates said, nature itself is the best physician. We've had that philosophy, had access to this philosophy for a long time, but seem to have lost track. John Muir said, come to the woods, for here is rest. And during the pandemic, many did find time to take themselves outside and into the woods. Now we must teach respect for nature, and we must learn immersion in order, at least for short stretches, to leave civilization behind and observe and absorb. John Muir again, into the forest I go to lose my mind and find my soul.
Amen. The only thing I'm absolutely sure of is there are no absolutes in our lives. That said, I absolutely believe there is a power higher than me that oversees our lives, all life, and all that is. My chosen word for this power is God. Yours may or may not be the same, depending on our heritage, our family of origin, our life experiences. There have been too many times in my life that I've said I absolutely won't do something, or I absolutely believe, only to change my mind when my perspective has changed. One thing that comes with living 80 years is the ability to say, I believe my younger absolutes about life and situations are no longer valid.
Amen. I absolutely hate banning books and other media. Everyone should have the right to select reading materials for themselves and maybe their own young children, but should not be able to control the flow of ideas of others. The freedom to read is sacred to me. Of course, there are some limits, but seeing how the Russian government is trying to control news and information is frightening. All people need to have the opportunity to learn and seek the information they need to develop physically, emotionally, and spiritually. One of my mantras is that the only constant is change. While it is certainly hard to adapt to the many changes around us, we need to accept that change is happening and will continue to happen. We need to develop resilience and patience to live and hopefully thrive in the midst of uncertainty. And as Laurel often says, we don't have to do it alone.
Amen. We have two folks who contributed visually, so thank you, Doug, for putting these up on the screens. This is a meme that Tam Paquette created. And this next one, oh, I'm sorry. It says belongingness. The void plagues our soul. Universal hand-holding must be absolute.
Amen.
Amen. Gonna take in the visual. Vicky's on it. And this next one is a collage of words. It says, war is abhorrent, heinous, atrocious, hateful, hideous, revolting, vicious, horrendous, heartbreaking, unspeakable, shocking, sad, distressing, agonizing, unacceptable, dire, pitiful, cruel, excruciating, grievous, calamitous, tragic, unbearable, heart-wrenching, vile, cruel, harsh, painful, dreadful, torturous, ghastly, miserable, wretched, frightening, hateful, hideous, gruesome, horrible, disastrous, disturbing, appalling, unacceptable. Amen. Thank you so much to everyone who has contributed and shared their absolutes.
And now we will do our offertory. So if the ushers would come forward. We collect this month, this quarter, we are collecting for the Loveland Community Kitchen, which many of you know we have a relationship with, both through donations, and also we work there, I think, every 2 months, and we've got another one coming up in April. So if you'd like to get your hands dirty and feed some folks, sign up with Linda Danforth. Remember what we usually say here. Does anybody else? Thank you for your generosity. That was absolutely perfect. Well, I have one absolute from myself. As I have been immersed in some challenging issues around my son lately, I have given much thought to absolutes. As many of you know, he has special needs and some mental health issues, and absolute isn't a word that often resonates with those conditions. My absolutes. I absolutely adore him, but not his behavior. I'm absolutely in his life for the long haul. Let's just put it there till the day I die. And I hope that I stick around for a long time, because I don't have a plan for him after I die. And I am absolutely appalled that I don't have a plan yet. I absolutely will not return him to his birth parents, even though there are times I'd like them to take a turn. I know in my heart that the death of his dad at age 13 absolutely set him and me back a bit, and I always wonder how things might have been different. I absolutely know that the system we live in is not set up for the needs of those with intellectual and developmental disabilities, but usually for the convenience of those in the business. I'm absolute in knowing that many people who go into the business of working with those with special needs have the biggest hearts. I'm also sure that many are at a loss for services, ideas, time, and trust when most needed. I've been absolute in knowing, expecting that things will get better. Not so sure anymore. I'm absolutely sure that he will continue to surprise me. Like the other day when he asked if we could go to the place that we used to go frequently, where we saw eagles and hawks and owls. Took me a minute because he usually wants to go shopping. So my first thought was Cabela's. But he meant the Environmental Learning Center, outdoors in nature. You could have knocked me over with one of their feathers. And I absolutely know that so many of you here are available to me and him in our darkest times, and I'm absolutely grateful. Amen.
One more absolute. Soon after I arrived at Namaqua, Kathy Hartman gave me an envelope stuffed with $70 and a note asking me to spend the money on someone that needed it. Kathy was celebrating her 70th birthday, and my participation in this birthday ritual would help her spread love for folks she hasn't yet met. I spent quite a lot of time thinking about how to spend the money. I'm quite sentimental. And in the end, I decided to spend $70 on a few dozen donuts from a bakery in Canyon City and a couple of boxes of coffee from Canyon City's well-trafficked Starbucks. It was 5 in the morning. I collected the goodies and brought them inside Territorial Correctional Facility with me. Ostensibly, I brought them in to share and celebrate the film project I've told you all so much about. We were shooting our last day with the incarcerated team. But really, I brought the coffee and donuts because I know that food and generosity are the building blocks of love in the world. I'm a live to eat person, and I'm also a live to love person. The guys were elated to have fresh coffee and sugary pastries. And in the sharing of that meal together, in the joy of that moment, we were celebrating you, Kathy, and we were celebrating all of us. I'm absolutely sure of it.
Amen.
Please rise in body or spirit and sing with us number 1057.
Thank you, Ryan. Will you extinguish the chalice while I read the simple by Cynthia Hogue? The women cluster at the cathedral, hair in careful bouffant helmets, armored and elegant, poised to herd purposefully into mystery. I want to do that too, but then tear up. I can't say why. Stand still. Wind wisps my hair that gently you brush like stardust from my eyes. Light shifts and colors sharpen. Across the square, the Grand Hotel sparkles with chandeliers, mirrors upon mirrors in gold leaf frames, the soaring, empty space of the symbolic. Throngs pass in and out of these yawning doors, the alucricious doorman, the language of bodies feeling fear, love, pain, desire, equitably, a gift of insight we hadn't asked for or realized we'd received. A simple, an edge of the negative, not simple but potent, to refuse absolutes, remain in process, a healing of my emotional body in order to keep open the possible. The huddling women who seem so done up are wounded, not beautiful, as in the strength with which they clutch one another. Eloquent now, their faces have character, expressed in the parlance of style. We could read but not speak, always our broken word.
Now, if you listen closely, I'll tell you something I know. Storm clouds are gathering, the wind is going to blow. The race of man is suffering, and I can hear the moan because nobody can make it out here alone. Alone, all alone. Nobody can make it out here alone. To being together in our absolutes and together in our absolute commitment to change, let's leave by saying amen.
Amen. And I have a few announcements. There were a gazillion announcements in the e-blast, and I'm not going to read them all because you're going to go back and check that out. But let me run through a few. March 27th, so our next service is in person once again, hopefully. Forgiveness, the hardest act of love. And following that service, there will be an interim minister workshop. So we have an intern minister. We will be getting an interim minister following Laurel's retirement, and that person will start in August. Sarah Millspaugh from UUA will be giving us a better understanding of what that means for all of us. So if you'd like to stay after the service next week, you can hear that workshop. Women's Circle meets March 23rd at 6:30. Social Sisterhood virtual Thursday, March 24th at noon. Parent Support Group Thursday, March 24th, 6:30. Choir rehearsal, 7 o'clock, March 24th, Thursday. UUUX next Saturday. And then there will be an in-gathering of new members on April 10th. So if you are interested in learning more about membership, or you're on the cusp or whatever, contact Alice Kane or Reverend Laurel and find out more about that. The in-gathering is the ceremony to welcome our new members. We've got a ton of really interesting adult enrichment classes. There's a link in the email to get that. You heard we needed a housekeeper. You can contact Sally Henry if you want to do that job or know someone. And General Assembly this year is June 22nd through 26th in Portland, Oregon, and also virtual. And we have some money available to help people out with those expenses. The end.
All right, thank you all. Have a beautiful week. That was great. How you feeling?
Okay.
It worked. We're just 5 minutes over. That's not bad. I thought we were going to be able to. Well, Ryan did a nice job of cutting out.
Hi, Ryan.